The giving up, the total uprooting of vanity and pride is a great task, but it is a blessed task, and it can be accomplished by constant practice in non-resentment and by meditating upon one's thoughts and actions so as to understand and purify them, and the spirit of forgiveness is perfected in one in the measure that pride and vanity are overcome and abandoned. The not taking offense and the not giving offense go together. When a man ceases to resent the actions of others, he is already acting kindly towards them, considering them before himself or his own defense. Such a man will be gentle in what he says and does, will arouse love and kindness in others, and not stir them to ill will and strife. He will also be free from all fear concerning the actions of others towards him, for he who hurts none fears none. But the unforgiving man, he who is eager to pay back some real or imaginary slight or injury, will not be considerate towards others, for he considers himself first, and is continually making enemies. He also loves in the fear of others, thinking that they are trying to do towards him as he is doing towards them. He who contrives the hurt of others fears others. There is a beautiful story of Prince Dirghayu, which was told by an ancient Indian teacher to his disciples in order to impress them with the truth of the sublime precept that hatred ceases not by hatred at any time, hatred ceases by non-hatred. The story is as follows. Brahmadatta, a powerful king of Benares, made war upon Dirgheti, the king of Kosala, in order to annex his kingdom, which was much smaller than his own. Dirgheti, seeing that it was impossible for him to resist the greater power of Brahmadatta, fled and left his kingdom in his enemy's hands. For some time he wandered from place to place in disguise, and at last settled down with his queen in an artisan's cottage, and the queen gave birth to a son, whom they called Dirghayu. Now King Brahmadatta was anxious to discover the hiding place of Dirgheti in order to put to death the conquered king, for he thought, seeing that I have deprived him of his kingdom, he may someday treacherously kill me if I do not kill him. But many years passed by, and Dirgheti devoted himself to the education of his son, and by diligent application became learned and skillful and wise. And after a time, Dirgheti's secret became known, and he, fearing that Brahmadatta would discover him and slay all three, and thinking more of the life of his son than his own, sent away the prince. Soon after the exile, the king fell into the hands of Brahmadatta, and was, along with his queen, executed. Now Brahmadatta thought, I have got rid of Dirgheti and his queen, but their son, Prince Dirghayu, lives, and he will be sure to contrive some means of effecting my assassination. Yet he is unknown to any, and I have no means of discovering him. So the king lived in great fear and continual distress of mind. Soon after the execution of his parents, Dirghayu, under an assumed name, sought employment in the king's stables, and was engaged by the master of elephants. Dirghayu quickly endeared himself to all, and his superior abilities came at last under the notice of the king, who had the young man brought before him, and was so charmed with him that he employed him in his own castle, and he proved to be so able and diligent that the king shortly placed him in a position of great trust under himself. One day the king went on a long hunting expedition, and became separated from his retinue, Dirghayu alone remaining with him. And the king, being fatigued with his exertions, lay down, and slept with his head on Dirghayu's lap. Then Dirghayu thought, This king has greatly wronged me. He robbed my father of his kingdom, and slew my parents, and he is now entirely in my power. And he drew his sword, thinking to slay Brahmadatta. But remembering how his father had taught him never to seek revenge, but to forgive to the uttermost, he sheathed his sword. At last the king awoke out of a disturbed sleep, and the youth inquired of him why he looked so frightened. "My sleep," said the king, "is always restless, for I frequently dream that I am in the power of young Dirghayu, and that he is alone to slay me. While lying here, I again dream that with greater vividness than ever before, and it has filled me with dread and terror." Then the youth, drawing his sword, said, "I am Prince Dirghayu, and you are in my power. The time of vengeance has arrived." Then the king fell upon his knees and begged Dirghayu to spare his life. And Dirghayu said, "It is you, O king, who must spare my life. For many years you have wished to find me, in order that you might kill me. And now that you have found me, let me beg of you to grant me my life." And there and then did Brahmadatta and Dirghayu grant each other life, took hands, and solemnly vowed never to harm each other. And so overcome was the king by the noble and forgiving spirit of Dirghayu that he gave him his daughter in marriage and restored him to his father's kingdom. Thus hatred ceases by not hatred, by forgiveness, which is very beautiful and is sweeter and more effective than revenge. It is the beginning of love, of that divine love that does not seek its own, and he who practices it, he who perfects in it, comes at last to realize that blessed state wherein the torments of pride and vanity and hatred and retaliation are forever dispelled, and goodwill and peace are unchanging and unlimited. In that state of calm, silent bliss, even forgiveness passes away and is no longer needed, for he who has reached it sees no evil to resent, but only ignorance and delusion on which to have compassion, and forgiveness is only needed so long as there is any tendency to resent, retaliate, and take offense. Equal love towards all is the perfect law, the perfect state to which all lesser states find their completion. Forgiveness is one of the doorways in the faultless temple of love divine.